Welcome all to the NFC Roundtable off season, week 2 for us. How you guys doing today?
Spectacular.
Hanging in there.
So, anything happened since we were on last? I really haven't been paying too close attention to this whole football game we got going.
I don't think too much is going on currently. I think it's just pretty much just business as usual.
What do we got heading north of the Chicago border there?
I'm sorry?
Ryan, what's going on up in Green Bay, man?
Green Bay. Well, Green Bay, the head domino started the domino fall with Aaron signs his deal, kept everybody waiting in bated breath, and now obviously, the financials say was it $200 million, 4 years, but nothing, but Aaron squashed that, saying that's not what I signed for, not releasing the details, blah blah blah. My thing is, you tag Adams, you sign Rodgers, you're still in salary cap hell. So
well, yeah. Well, this is what I'm hearing. I don't know if you've heard this or not. I'm hearing you're looking at a 3-year deal, $51 million guaranteed each year. That gives you your $153 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got a player's option on the 4th year, which is basically a 3-year deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're still in cap hell.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I don't know any other way around it.
As of right now, and like I said, this is just some of the things I'm reading. Rodgers, I think, had something to say about this deal in terms of he wants more control of personnel decisions, kind of like what Brady had a little bit of control in that with Tampa, and
Brady had control.
Well, he got to pick and choose his players.
Dude, Jason Live might as well have been paying him his salary that year. Let's be honest.
I mean, was it not? He got Gronk on the team. He got Antonio Brown on the team. I don't think he was coming there unless he had assurances that he was getting the right personnel around him.
100%.
Okay. There is a little bit of a difference between Ron and that guy formerly known as Tommy T. Now, hold on. Now, okay. First off, Brady had at least one, possibly 2 more Super Bowl championships. First off. Secondly, what was the story you always heard from his teams? Oh, Tom Brady's going to be cutting his salary to bring in, for more cap space to bring in better players.
Mm-hmm.
Where on earth is Chiefs-centric boy up there? You don't hear him doing any of that.
I completely agree with you.
And he wants the same kind of control that Tom Brady had by actually giving less.
You're exactly right. And if you listen to some of the Packer talk up in Wisconsin, a lot of fans are just kind of sick of him right now. Honestly, they weren't going to be that sad to see him go, even though Chicago media was, telling the Packers media, you don't even know how good you have it. You don't know what's coming when he's gone.
Right. That's all you have is Aaron Rodgers saying, "Hey, if it's good for me, it's good for me." He's not even talking about it.
So,
welcome to the cheesy joke show.
Hey,
because
you called it though. You said that domino is going to fall, and the rest of the league will follow, and that's honestly what it took. It took Aaron Rodgers,
that block,
saying he's going to stay for the rest of the league to even do anything. Aaron Rodgers pops, and then you got Russell Wilson. It just all started to crumble after they saw, Aaron staying.
Well, I knew you knew Denver was going to be a big player in this whole thing, and I think that was basically the decision. Would Aaron go to Denver, or was he going to stay in Green Bay? And obviously, Green Bay won that out, and you noticed immediately it was the Denver had that deal in hand to acquire Russell Wilson. It's
right.
just it kind of just goes to show you that, I mean, just one person is all it took to hang up everything, and now we've got action every day. So,
yeah. Speaking of action every day, what's going on in Chicago? I mean, it seems like every day they're just, throwing someone else out of the locker room. I mean,
yeah, not much.
You trade Khalil Mack for what? 2022 second and the 2023.
See, I'm trying to actually avoid that because it's still rather upsetting to me personally. So you're getting 2 draft picks, relatively low draft picks, in my opinion, over the next 2 years, a second and a third rounder. Fine. I don't think there's any cash on the table. I don't think there's any other players that are actually being traded for Khalil Mack to the Chargers. Now, he wasn't necessarily unhappy, might not have been as content as he could have been. But, the Chargers, of course, immediately, you're going to go to a potential contender, especially in the West, where if you get through a couple 2-3 tough games, you're doing pretty well. So Khalil Mack, of course, is going to be going. Bears have also, released running back Tariq Cohen with an injury designation, which is kind of a shame. I always like Tariq Cohen. They released Eddie Goldman. Now, Eddie Goldman, of course, is kind of interesting because as we were talking, he went to Florida State. Coming out, he was a Mr. Stud Boy. And the first couple of years did okay, got injured and, things like that. And it hasn't quite been the same. And you can certainly appreciate that. But when Akeem Nicks went down with his injury, that's, of course, when you would expect Eddie Goldman, of course, to pick up the pace, so to speak. And he just simply didn't. He has all the tools to do so. He's fast. He's strong. And quick off the ball, things like that. There's just that one piece that's missing that is not giving him his complete game.
Right.
So the Bears also claimed running back Darrington Evans off of waivers from Tennessee. That's currently. However, with all that being said, you of course have Virginia McCaskey, who apparently isn't doing very well as far as health wise. And, there's a possibility that the Bears may look to, again, the inevitable, unfortunately, that the Bears may look to possibly, sell the team or whatever the case is, when that inevitable does, in fact, happen. And as we were just talking a few moments ago, bring in our friend from Amazon, Mr. Bezos. By the way, we, shout out to the Amazon and Jeff Bezos. Sponsor alert. But there is a strong possibility, that he could do some good things in Chicago for the Bears, if by chance, that opportunity ever came about.
Well, I heard he has a couple bucks he might be able to throw towards the Arlington Hype Project and things like that. I mean, maybe
might have to sell a few more blenders.
So do you agree with this whole? I don't want to call it a yard sale or fire sale or mass exodus up in Chicago, but being a Bears fan, you've got to accept that next year you're just going to the game for the beer and the tailgate. I mean,
right. And so remember we were talking a couple months ago, whatever it was, I don't even remember. My timeline is all messed up. How you're looking for the players that are actually be good for the system. And so once you actually get those players for the system itself is going to hopefully pull you through. And I think that's exactly what we're kind of looking for. GM polls, we'll see what his plan is, but you got to think that, when you're getting rid of certain players, for example, Khalil Mack, for example, you have a couple players, Eddie Goldman even, you still have a major holes in your offensive line, Akeem Nicks possibly, wide receivers, things like that. You have to, in this particular case, especially, you have to trust the system, because what else do you have at this point?
Got you. So,
but I mean, well, here's the thing, though. But here's the thing. I mean, I know it's like, it seems like they're just, waving the white flag, and having a fire sale. But I mean, if you're looking at it, they're trying to erase the mistakes the previous regime made. I mean, Ryan Pace really went all in, starting with Trubisky, and just kept hedging his bet, basically. And when you do that and you're constantly losing, yeah, exactly. Now this new administration that comes in, you've got you don't have very many draft picks this year. You have high-priced talent on the field that you're A, trying to trade, or B, you're not going to get much in the trade market, so you're just going to outright release them to set yourself up for, future seasons. I mean, as of right now, I think Jerry actually made a comment, which, that's probably why our show's looking so good today, because he's not on it.
Right here.
Yep, right there. They're going to have over 150 million in cap space to get talent. So they're basically just telling everybody right now, yeah, bear with us. Don't mind the pun. Bear with us this year. We're going to get this right. And the way Poles seems like he's looking at it, he wants faster people, not exactly, big, strong people on the line or whatever. He wants quick people.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how he builds that offensive line, how he builds the defense, because it'll be interesting to see if that comes to fruition, get some talent around Fields. It could get turned around in a couple of years. You never know.
Look at it this way, right? You got Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay for guaranteed 3. Like I said, that's what I hear. Guaranteed 3, potentially 4 years. You got the Bears, who are stripping it down to the bare bones right now. They have no draft ammunition this year, really, in the first round. They do have compensation thanks to that stellar deal they got for Khalil Mack, basically with just to move more capital. But anyway, so they get a second-round pick. So the Bears now have two second round picks this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So now you've got – what's that?
You said the Bears, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you've got the Chicago Bears building, like I said, from ground zero. I think the Aaron Rodgers deal plays a huge part in this, because now you've got Aaron Rodgers for the 3 years. The Bears are building. They're going to tank this year. Sorry, Bears fans, that's what's going to happen. It might not be intentional. They're not going to win more than 7-8 games this year. So then you've got a solid first-round draft pick next year.
It's definitely an improvement. But, you have quite a few teams that are actually rebuilding. And that's where it gets kind of interesting, because Aaron Rodgers is just one player. He can only do so much. And, you have your wide receiver, Adams, locked in for at least one more year.
You're not going to tag him 3 years. You're not going to franchise tag him the third time. That puts him in the top tier.
No.
Oh, yeah.
He's gone next year.
Yeah, I don't think they want to spend, better part of $100 million just on 2 players.
Well, this is interesting to see on that, though, too, because, not to get off the Bears tangent, but Adams, the last time the Packers tagged somebody was 10 years ago, and they immediately signed him within months of the franchise tag being placed to an extension. I see an extension in the future for him. I really do.
Because Aaron Rodgers comes back. But then that also actually, now you have questions at tight end, even at your number 2 and 3 receivers, your running backs, although Saquon Barkley is available, apparently, according to the Giants. Then, of course, your defense. Your defense, which was relatively solid, over the past year, that's even in question now. So, you have one player who's taking up a big chunk of your cap. So now you have very little to play with, even though this year's cap wouldn't get as much of a hit. But you still have to be able to sign or even get free agents and things like that are going to come in to be able to even equal the team that you had last year, or even just below that team last year. 10 wins.
Yeah.
You see that happening? I think the Bears are going to end up being a little bit more competitive than you might think. However, it's not going to be a major playoff run, unfortunately.
You don't want to be any better, Andy. You really don't. You want draft ammunition. You're in a rebuild. Same with the Bucs. If the Bucs don't land a good quarterback, they're in a rebuild.
5 wins. 5 wins is an improvement.
5 wins, that's great, but you don't want to be that 8th playoff team, 7th. You don't want to be that. You want to be in a position that you can develop for the years to come. Aaron Rodgers is out of Green Bay in 3 years.
I think he very well may be out of football in 3 years. You're right, because he's in his 40s or close to it, and so, if by chance, and then you're going to have kind of this flux in, because, you're going to have other players that are going to be decided to retire too. Russell Wilson, he's not a spring chicken for sure. You have unproven, really, in my opinion, it's actually unproven, veterans like a Trubisky, was he really challenged to be the best player he could be, in that particular situation in Chicago? No. He went to Buffalo, he might have gotten a little bit of help there, whatever the case is. He very well may have that it factor that nobody's actually been able to see.
Right. So, anyway, I really think the Bears are in position to make the playoffs 2-3 years. And I'm not talking like squeak in the playoffs. I'm talking make headway in the playoffs. It's not out of the question. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
So, let's get into Mike Stout's world here, shall we? Amari Cooper is traded for a bag of Skittles. I mean, was very preoccupied with the pending DNA test? What's going on there?
Well, I was actually reading about that particular deal, and I believe it's actually for 4 red and 8 yellow Skittles.
I mean, the Browns are on their way to mediocre right now.
Well, isn't the Browns? Isn't that where they send wide receivers who underperform to go to the Browns just to see what underperforming is all about?
Wow! Did you see the meme where it's like Dak was like, "Well, good luck since I'm the black Kirk Cousins," and Cooper responds back, "That's okay. I'm going to play for the white Dak Prescott."
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I mean, you want to talk about returns in a trade? What's going on there? I don't know what Jerry Jones is thinking, unless his mind's been all messed up with this.
He's been on the phone with Maury all week.
Yeah.
What are you doing? How do you only get? Oh, that's the worst trade. I mean, it's even worse than the Khalil Mack deal.
Well, the one thing with the Khalil Mack deal, though, that a lot of people don't talk about is the Chargers are taking the rest of his contract. Like, the Bears aren't going to pay anything else anymore. The only thing is the dead cap, or the dead cap this year on it. But otherwise, they're rid of him. That was the bit. That's probably the bigger part of that trade. But in terms of the Amari Cooper thing, I don't get that whatsoever. I mean, the
Browns were wanting to move from Jarvis Landry.
Right. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Why do you do that? That's just dumb. But anyway, I don't know if you guys heard, there was a huge trade. Sorry, wrong slide. Huge trade this week with the Denver Broncos. Did you guys hear about that one?
I might have heard about that one.
So Denver Broncos, they still have a team?
Who won that trade?
You can look at it. Well, you can look at it. I mean, a lot of people are saying Seattle won that trade just with the compensation. I mean, you're getting rid of an older quarterback. Now you can, obviously, they released one of their defensive players promptly right after that. And I think they're going to go younger. And the thing is going younger is getting in the draft, getting good players to replace. It's just going to be interesting to see what quarterback goes into Seattle. But in terms of the now, maybe the Broncos have a couple years with Russell, but I mean, God only knows. I mean, will he mesh with these players? Does Denver have enough to truly compete in an already loaded, AFC West?
That's the. Go ahead.
Yeah, but think about it like this: you've got some quality quarterbacks that are out there. You got Love, Trask, Trubisky. You got some quality. You got some quality quarterbacks that can actually go out to the West and do some really good things. Possibly up to and including a touchdown. 35 to 40 picks, it's one of those things. Now, it's just I don't think they've had the, because even like in Tampa Bay, for example, you had the starter had some success earlier in his career, so they decided to keep going with him, never giving our friend Mr. Trask an honest look.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, though,
Jerry's on the show, and Kyle Trask has been brought up twice already.
Well, wait till the next one. The next one's going to be epic. You watch.
But so I really think Seattle wins that trade. Russell Wilson, what has he done lately? Is it because he didn't mesh well with the DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett? I mean, what was it? Why did he? I don't know. You get.
I think he and Pete Carroll were having some issues actually.
Yeah,
and
but
so
think about this for a second. He, before last season, Russell wanted out. I mean, listed 5 teams, and actually there was a deal basically there for him to go to the Bears, and Carroll ixnayed it. Said no, not doing it. And I mean, that's how close it was.
But when you look at the deal, Seattle gets a 5th round pick and Wilson. Right?
Right.
Or no, the Broncos get.
Yeah, the Broncos get it. Yes.
5th round pick and Wilson. Seattle gets Noah Fant, Pro Bowl tight end. Drew Lock, solid backup, possible starter. Shelby Harris, solid. 2 firsts and a 5th. So you're washing the 5th out, and the Broncos got Wilson. For potentially 7 starters. 7. There's 22 starters on a football field at a time.
Yeah, that's almost like the deal that the Bears put together for Khalil Mack.
I mean, did it work out well for the Bears?
37-0.
The Bears traded all those draft picks, starters, and they successfully have not won the NFC North, made the playoffs on a technicality. I mean, they had nothing for it. And what is Seattle? I mean, what is Denver going to do? They're in a tough division.
Yeah, I don't know.
but the reason why I mentioned, sorry to interrupt you, but the reason why I mentioned before, that, when you asked who was actually the winner of that trade, and that's why I figured Aaron Rodgers. Not only is he going to get a little bit more control, not only is he going to get a nice little chunk of change, but then, of course, as we were talking about last week, even before, frees up a whole lot of scenarios with everybody else now. And so that allowed basically that deal to go through from Seattle to Denver. So, now that you need to be able to have that type of scenario to where now you're going to have to be able to build around Wilson, who is a proven quarterback, and he is getting a little bit older. But, you also had quarterbacks in Denver that you had the one guy. He was an Indianapolis Colt for a while. And he ended up beating the Bears in 2006 in the Super Bowl. But anyway.
Oh, the billboard.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, that team, oddly enough, is actually not necessarily set up, but it's actually conducive to actually a success with a not-so-mobile quarterback. So.
Seattle now has no quarterback. They have Drew Lock, right? Rumor has it they're really kicking the tires on a Colin Kaepernick again. Looking into him. Is there anything there, or is it just Kaepernick's trying to draw up interest for him other teams? I mean, I've never seen Seattle come out and say they were doing it. I've heard Kaepernick say that Seattle's been in contact. What are your thoughts? You think there's any smoke there? Any fire, I should say?
I think right now in this market of quarterback carousel, there has to be a little smoke with this just because there's teams scrambling for a quarterback, and quarterbacks are right now few and far between. The draft's not exactly loaded with good quarterbacks this year. And, you've got to put yourself in a scenario to put yourself with at least somebody with a somewhat experience and take a chance. Maybe Seattle does take a flyer on Kaepernick, invite him to camp, and give it, say that, prove it in the preseason, show us what you got, and maybe he ends up being the quarterback for a year until Seattle figures it out. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
So actually, that brings up really 2 points. Was that a Pete Carroll, decision to possibly bring him in, and number 2, just how effective would a quarterback who's been out of the league that long really be, because the game has changed dramatically since he was last in the league.
Yeah,
think about it. You got those kids from Georgia who are running sub 540s at 350,000 pounds. I mean,
but they can't hit him. You can't hit the quarterback.
Yeah, but
think about it this way:
different.
If Jim Kelly played in today's era of football, he could play till he's 70 if he didn't. I mean, he will never get hit. I mean, Brady's longevity has a lot to do with his training regimen, but I think it has a lot to do with the new rules.
Yeah,
that's true, sure, but you still have to be able to perform. And Brady's a perfect case in point is that you're throwing to an area, not necessarily a person.
Right.
So that does give a little bit of leeway, I guess.
Yeah. So being able to perform, it didn't stop the Washington Commanders, Comrades. From taking a flyer on Prince Charles. Carson Wentz. I mean, wow.
I think all the memes pretty much have said it all. I mean, you're walking into a field that is not necessarily known for having the best anything, including field. And you have a poor guy who, he sneezes and he hurts himself, kind of like I've been the last couple of years. My goodness. But anyway, I don't know. I don't see that.
He has the talent. He has. I mean, he's not a bad quarterback, but he just can't put it together anymore.
Yeah, ever since the year he should have won the MVP when he got hurt.
Once he fell victim to BDN.
Yeah. I mean, he has done nothing. I mean, basically, he hasn't had like an eye-popping season to where you say, okay, there's the talent. I just think after that hit and after that injury, he's never been the same. He's not the same person.
So with Wentz going to the team that should have stayed with the Washington football team, that leaves Indianapolis barren. Who goes there?
Well, think about this for a second. I wanted to jump in real quick on this. How in the hell can one team go through 5 starting quarterbacks in 5 years?
Have you
for the Bears?
You're in the North, bro. The Bears have like 72. The Browns have had 306 in 7 days.
What I mean is, it's like we're talking big name quarterbacks. We're not talking about whoever the Bears no names quarterbacks they've put on as a starter. I mean,
Cordell Stewart, Dr. Quinn
/ Dr. Quinn, medicine woman.
Yeah,
she actually went 2-0. It was like 22 in her 22 touchdowns, 17 picks. She was solid.
Jim Miller.
I mean, you go from Andrew Luck to Jacoby Brissett to Phillip Rivers or however that worked to Carson Wentz, and now they're going to be going on number 5 in 5 years.
Yeah,
and it's interesting, and there's a lot of talk about they're gonna make a splash in this with the trade, and most recently read they're really hot on Kirk Cousins, and Minnesota's having lots of trouble with him right now because he wants a new contract. And he's complaining about it because apparently, like I said last week, he was in on the finding the new coach and stuff like that. He basically wanted this guy, but now he wants his contract extension. And Minnesota's like, wait, we're not completely sold on you.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of smoke up in Minnesota that they're looking to deal him, and that could be a spot where he ends up going, being that he's got 1 year to prove to the Colts, hey, I'm a good quarterback. Let
me throw this at you. How about some MINSHEW mania down in Indy? I think he fits, and he's cheap.
That's kind of interesting.
I mean, Cousins is going to cost whoever he goes to. He's going to play well enough that you're like, oh, we can do something here. So you're going to pay him. He's going to keep you right on the cusp.
The problem with Cousins, you have to say that every year.
Exactly. You get Minshew cheap.
Minshew's actually, that is kind of interesting, isn't it?
And he brings a fan base, which is crazy to say because he's just like Burt Reynolds driving a 78 Trans Am, pulling up to the stadium looking like a porn star, but he's got all this fandom behind him. He's like a gimmick. He's a WWE character that throws the football kind of good and he can scramble.
I think at best you got BJ McCann. Better you remember that show.
But I mean, seriously, I think Minshew to the Colts makes sense. You got a good ground game. You got a sound defense. You were 2 plays away from being in the playoffs last year. You were almost in the playoffs with Rivers. I mean, why not give you some Minshew mania? He'll bring people with him.
I see the idea. Trust me, it's especially in Indianapolis. They're looking for that next person to wrap their arms around, and they haven't had that since. And I know I'm not going to say the name. We'll just call him Forehead.
Well, you got Luck. They loved Luck until he quit, and then they booed the shit out of him, stuff out of him. But it happens. So, but then you got Jameis Winston. Where's Winston end up?
That's another good question because he did show something a little bit last year under Sean Payton that he can be a better game manager, and he has all the talent in the world. But can you get that talent to work for your offense? That's the problem.
Well, let's dive into what's coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow we're looking at free agency, first week free agency in the NFL. Let's go down and see where we think these players will fit. We got Teron Armstead, tackle. I know there's some people that would love to see him in Chicago. You can sign him in a 1-year deal. Next year, you got all the cap space in the world. If he plays well, you have that option, right?
Right.
Anyone else have an idea where you could slide him in at? He's not one of the best tackles in the league or anything. How did the Saints just like, okay, you can go test free agency. We're going to hold packed here with our great offense now that Peyton's left. Teron Armstead, I think, is solid. I think he anchors any line in the NFL. He goes to Chicago. He goes to Seattle even. You put him in Indy where there's a ground game. You can pick him up to or take him down to Tampa.
Yeah, I was just going to say that because I know Tampa's looking for a tackle for sure.
Right. So
and he is actually very, very solid. He what you're going to get. He's really good actually on the run. He's really good on the pass. So I would love to see him in Chicago, absolutely. But who are you going to get rid of with the on the Bears offensive line? It's so incredibly solid and stout.
I really think he fits there. And I had a long discussion with my brother-in-law last night. I think he fits there. I really think the Bears, if they don't go tackle there, they go with it in the draft.
Well, that's interesting you bring that up because I did read something too that I think the Bears are looking at trying to acquire him because there was something I read I think on Twitter last night about them possibly moving Tevin Jenkins to right tackle.
Guard, right?
Right guard. Or something like that, which still leaves the left side open, and they need somebody on that left side to hold it down. But Armstead was on Sirius XM NFL radio and said that he's not ruling out coming back to the Saints.
Yeah, he's tested, see what they can get.
Right.
And you got, in my opinion, number 2 top free agent right now is the 32-year-old Chandler Jones, edge rusher. I don't know where he fits because of his age. Same thing with Von Miller. I don't know where he fits because of his age. They both got all the talent in the world, but at that age, where do you slide them in at? Kansas City could make a run on both of them. I don't see much interest other than maybe the Broncos with Miller. I don't know. I don't know where they'd fall.
Detroit's looking at the 49ers, Jordan Wills, 6'4", 270 pounds. His one of the things I had read, and that's actually wouldn't be a bad idea. Detroit, of course, still has a few places to be able to fill as well. So they're looking. Let's see, Anthony Harris, safety. Wills, of course. Whitehead from the Buccaneers, also another safety.
Right.
Neal,
safety.
Linebacker.
Well, now he's a linebacker. He was a safety, yeah.
Well, but that would actually be real interesting. Is the fact, Detroit's looking at some. They're looking at some decent players here.
Well, there's a lot of older players that have hit free agency, but you've got like Carlton Davis, 25-year-old corner. His first 2 years in the league, he was definitely a lot better than he was last year. Injuries have plagued him, but he could be a difference maker. He could be number one corner on a team. I don't think the Bucs re-sign him. They're letting him test free agency. I don't see him ending up back in Tampa. Jordan Whitehead, I think, might end up back in Tampa. I think that's someplace that they're going to invest money in as a young safety.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the Bears, for example. I know they were looking at Gibson, for example, and I think he probably will have possibly another year with the Bears. Relatively low salary, I think, is really what it kind of boils down to, because the Bears do have a little bit of a cap this year, but nothing like the future.
So the Bears have Allen Robinson hitting free agency. You have one receiver on contract with Mooney. Where do we see Robinson falling? I mean,
probably back with the Bears, actually.
You think so?
I do. I really do. It's a strong possibility. You do have a few wide receivers that are out there, but I know one of the ones that they're looking at is Mike Williams, Chargers.
I think he signed.
He re-signed.
You re-signed?
Yeah.
Taylor Cross
deal, right? Yeah. But
was that in the last 10 minutes?
No, that was. I think that was either right before them getting. Who did they just get? The Chargers. They got Khalil Mack. I think it was
that linebacker.
Khalil Mack deal.
Yeah.
But
if you look at a lot of the and see, that's just the thing too. You had Bears.com and a few other websites and things like that have actually looked. You have a lot of defense, quarterback, safeties, even defensive, interior linemen and things like that the Bears are looking at, and that's great. That's fantastic. But the Bears have a few questions on offense that they need to answer as well, which includes especially wide receiver. Who are you going to throw the ball to?
That's huge right now.
Jimmy Graham, you're going to put him out on the
What's the receiver from Green Bay that I heard is being considered for Chicago?
Valdez-Scantling.
That's him, yeah. He's solid number two, but you already got a number two. The Bears need to find a number one, and I don't think they're going to do it other than in the draft. That's why I think Robinson ends up in Jacksonville again. I think it makes sense for him to go back home.
I personally don't think Robinson's getting anything bigger than a 1-year prove-it deal after what happened last year.
Yeah,
I think there was a difference between him being hurt and him basically just giving up on the Nagy experiment because of the fact that he knew it wasn't a good situation.
Right.
Hmm.
So there's only one other receiver that we haven't covered in free agency that's really top 10 maybe, and that's OBJ. Does he stay in LA, or is he gonna find himself out there for a little bit? I mean,
good question. The injury, obviously, with the second ACL injury of his career.
Same knee, right?
Yeah, same knee. It depends on if teams are going to just say, we believe he's going to be good to go and sign him to a longer deal, or will a team like the Bears, for example, or even the Packers give him a 1-year lower end deal, prove it deal after he comes off of injury and say, hey, just show us what you got.
I think the Packers make sense here.
I read that this morning.
Really?
There's a little smoke with that.
I think it makes sense because you're saying you're showing your fan base we're going to pull in a top tier receiver for our diva quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Big name. Maybe you make Aaron Rodgers happy. I mean, but yeah, I think that definitely a possibility of seeing him up in Green Bay.
How long is recovery?
ACL. It should put him preseason, maybe week 4, week 1 regular season.
So, again, because my whole point is you're going to need, especially if you bring in somebody like that, solid player, healthy, perfect. But you need to be able to actually have that relationship with your quarterback and stuff like that to be able to actually get your timing down, even though Aaron Rodgers is similar to a Tom Brady where you throw it to an area and things like that, fine. But what happens if Beckham doesn't start getting the ball, 14 times a game? Is he going to start? I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily a solid player. Yes, I just don't know if he's going to necessarily be able to come back with a team. Who knows? Second ACL, same knee.
Same knee. Yeah, that's the issue. That's what's going to scare a lot of, I think,
You're right.
NFL teams away.
And this is why I think he doesn't come back to the Rams because the Rams still have Robert Woods,
who's coming back off injury this year.
Right. And that's the thing. Do you want? Granted, and everybody's pipe dream, you'd love to have all the best players, but the thing is, Robert Woods is a darn good receiver, and they're already paying him. You got Cooper Kupp. Why do you need Odell Beckham?
It doesn't make sense for them in LA anymore. Speaking of not making sense anymore at their current team, Deshawn Watson. Last standing big domino to move. Where do you see it?
Well, this is interesting, and I think, and you're right. I think this is the next domino this is like the next big domino that will end up spurring off more moves, in my opinion. I've read the Panthers are hot on him.
I read all NFC South teams are hot on him.
Right. But I've also seen too that the Colts are taking a flyer on him to see. They're checking in to see what it's going to cost. The Vikings, if they can move Cousins, have been highly rumored. They really like him and they want to bring him on. Like I said, only if the Cousins deal happens will that again make the domino to go right back to Deshaun Watson, make the big trade that they need, and then now all of a sudden Minnesota becomes a big player in the North.
You also got to think that he's looking to get out of Houston just simply because of his past issues.
He's out of Houston. There's no staying.
Oh, absolutely. But you also have Seattle that has an opening. Again, Indianapolis, Tampa Bay. Yeah, the list just goes on and on and on about places he could conceivably go. But and you'll have to find out because what's his skill set? Would he be a fit in Seattle?
Deshaun Watson fits most systems because 1, he's not a bad scrambling quarterback. 2, he's good in the open field. He's a good pocket passer. His ball has good velocity, quick release. There's not many negatives about his game. Physically, there's nothing you can really throw a chink in his armor. You're not going to see him in New England with Robert Kraft. That's a bad combination. You don't want to put Robert Kraft, Deshaun Watson going to massage parlors together. Just not going to happen.
That's epic, isn't it?
But no, seriously though. Watson's game, he fits most teams. He's not like a niche quarterback like Lamar Jackson is.
How about this one? You ready? Watson to replace old Jimmy G.
Ooh, in San Fran?
Shout out to Christian.
They have the capital to move them. They have players that can get the deal done. They can move some draft picks.
Right. And the 49ers have had relative success even with a quarterback such as So if you actually improve your quarterback, you might be able to do maybe a little bit more. Who knows?
But are they ready to move on from Trey Lance? The Packers are definitely moving on from Jordan Love.
Yes.
Safe to say?
Yes, that's happening. That's going to happen.
Right. So, I mean, if Jordan Love is the talent he is, he could end up being a starter this year in the league.
And to think about this too, you want to talk about compensations right now for players. Well, a lot of what I'm reading, the Packers could end up getting a second or a third rounder for him. Ooh. Because it's because right now quarterbacks are at a minimum. Ooh. Think about that.
You got Teddy still out there. You got Trubisky who comes available tomorrow. Winston available tomorrow.
I can't. It's hard to wrap my head around the fact that Love could get as much, if not more, in a trade or whatever the case is, like Khalil Mack, for example.
Wait, they didn't get a good deal for Khalil Mack?
I think they were looking into getting a worse deal, but they settled on this one. Remember that pack of Skittles? Yeah, they were asking for almost a full pack of just or even M&Ms. They wanted the W's, like I'm supposed to be getting every week.
Wow. So, I mean, yeah, Jordan Love makes sense going to places that are building, though. You're going to build around a young quarterback. So, where is that? It's not Indy.
No.
Jimmy G could go to Indy. If the Niners are going to move from Jimmy Garoppolo, Indy makes sense. Kirk Cousins honestly makes sense in Indy if they're going to move on from Kirk Cousins. But
here's another nugget to throw at there now, and the thing is I'm going to throw this up here. What Jerry said, and this is kind of an interesting little tidbit right here, because if they're already re-signing their backup quarterback, that kind of already shows you right then and there, Jimmy G's good as gone, right?
Right.
So here's the thing. What the scenario of where we're going to bring this name back up, Tom Brady. A lot of things have been said recently about how he wanted to idealistically end his career back home.
I'm good with that.
San Francisco. But the question is, will the Bucks play hardball and say, no, he's ours and you got to give us some stuff for him? Or
absolutely.
Or will Brady maybe go and talk to the Bucks organization and say, look, I brought you a Super Bowl. I did all this in good faith.
So did Brad Johnson.
But wasn't Brad Johnson more of a quote unquote poor man's game manager, and it was more defensive that year when they won the Super Bowl?
100%. But wasn't the Super Bowl more defensive? That was won with Brady.
That is true. You're right.
So you can't go to a store and say you want a 75-inch TV, like I'll pay you for the 20. If Tom Brady comes back, the Bucs are going to get a king's ransom.
I was just gonna say what is in your mind, since you're the Bucs expert, what in your mind would the Bucs be asking?
Oh, you're going to get at least 2 firsts and a couple compensation players, if not more.
What if they traded Garoppolo to you guys? Could Garoppolo be your quarterback solution?
I'd take Jimmy G in a heartbeat. But let's say they do. They come up with Jimmy G, another starter, and 2 first-round picks. I would still ask for a second or a third. Look what Russell Wilson got.
That's true. You know what? That's a very good point. Russell Wilson the trade set the bar,
right?
Basically, what it's going to cost to get your quote unquote franchise quarterback. That's going to take.
Look at it this way: I can wait till tomorrow and pick someone up on my own terms.
Mm-hmm.
So say I'm the Bucs and I take a flyer on Mitch Trubisky, right? Not the pick. Everyone's going to be Mitch Trubisky's a Buck, but now Tom Brady wants to come back and play.
Right.
So now I got Mitch Trubisky, Kyle Trask.
It came up.
There it is. Brady, right? Because Tom Brady's not, if he's coming back to play, he's got to be a buck first. So then you put that backup out there. Now you've got the ability. I've got a starter behind. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't need Brady. I can use Brady as ammunition. I can start loading my cupboards for the upcoming season, upcoming years. And that's what they're going to do. I really don't think they're going to be like, yeah, here, give us a bag of Skittles and 3 Jolly Ranchers and we'll throw Brady in.
The thing that's interesting. Yeah, the thing that's interesting about this is kind of a Jerry question, but I mean, we'll just throw it out there. I mean, are the Niners seriously going to wait on this to see what's going to happen with Brady? Because I mean, I do think there's a lot of smoke to this.
Yeah, but they've got a course of action set with Trey Lance. They're in the same boat the Bucs are in. So say they're waiting on Brady. They're already moving from Jimmy G. They're going to get whatever they can for Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Whether it be a second, a fifth, whatever. So Jimmy G's out. You got Trey Lance there. You've got a backup quarterback already, right? You got to start on the backup. Tom Brady comes back and says, I want to play, but I want to play in San Francisco. Now the Niners are like, well, here's our shot. We were this many inches away from a Super Bowl. You give us the greatest quarterback to play the game in the last era of football. Now we're marching. They're going to pay. They're going to give them what they want because they want that shot at the ring. Then you got Trey Lance the following year starting as your quarterback. Tom Brady rides off into the sunset with Giselle and whatever in San Francisco. NFL gets their storybook ending, and the Bucs have draft capital. The Niners have their quarterback in a Super Bowl, and we're all ready to play for 2023, where the Bears have $700 million in cap space. The Packers have their quarterback and are trying to structure a deal with their wide receiver. The Niners, like I said, are the Super Bowl, and the Cowboys still suck.
So let's say Tom Brady does want to come back. I'm just saying, because I don't think he necessarily does, because you have two scenarios here. You're either going to ask for so much that it's just simply not going to happen because it's not available, or they're going to be like, okay, Tom, you want to come back? You have to come back and play for us. But what was the reason why he retired in the first place? Was it just because his aged body was hurting? No. Was it like some sort of friction with like the office people and possibly even the head coach? Is that little thing because it's going to creep up throughout the course of the season anyway. You're like, oh yeah, okay, everything's fine. We patched everything up. Next thing you know, 6 or 7 games in, you're like, well, I hear there's some friction over there in Tampa Bay again. It's just not going to last. I mean, do you really see that happening? Is he going to come back?
So he comes back and plays 6-7 games, and now you've limited your worth, right? So he's not worth as much to be moved. You've already seen what he can do in the season. You've already got your quarterback in waiting. You move him then. You take less, but you still move him. You're still going to get something for Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah.
So then it becomes a 2nd round and a 5th round. Or, you know what I mean? I'm being serious. I mean, you're still getting something for him. Sure. You're not just going to let him go to do what Tom Brady wants to do.
So, or he could just stay retired. And it's all just a moot point.
He could, but both teams have already got their course of action. If the Bucs wait till Monday and start, I would take Jameis Winston. Most Bucs fans wouldn't. I would. I would take Mitch Trubisky. Most Bears fans wouldn't. I would. Teddy Bridgewater. I'd give him a year. I don't want to go in. The Bucs are in a weird position because they're in a rebuild, but they're in a weak division that they can just totally run ruckshot on right now. The Saints, what do they have? The Falcons have Matt Ryan, who had to restructure his deal to free up $12 million so they can re-sign Cordero Patterson. That's basically what they did. You've got the Panthers, who have what? What do they have? They're already saying they want to move from Christian McCaffrey because the dude can't stay healthy. They have nothing. The cupboard's bare. The NFC South is the weakest division in the league. Bucs are in a rebuild, but they're in a rebuild position to where they can win the South, make the playoffs, host a home field. And then anything can happen.
Question: Isn't technically the Saints a quarterback away from being decent?
Are they?
I mean, with everything that happened to them last year, I mean, they sure as hell fought. I mean,
who's your head coach?
What's their offensive game plan? Who's their quarterback? Who's their head coach? Who's their receiving core? I mean, there's so many questions there. The Bucs have a question. Who's their quarterback? The offensive game plan's in place. The defensive game plan. The Bucs have one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. He's got to be top 5, if not top 3. You've got a great offensive-minded head coach. You've got a decent offensive coordinator who's going to get looks as a head coach. Your running back room is bare, but you're on an offense that does not run the ball but 15 times a game, if that. It's open. I mean, it's not you. The North is tougher than the South. You've got at least 2 teams that can compete for the North title, right?
Correct.
The East is, honest to God, it's going to be tough. And it's not because that division is so good, but it's because they're all right there. They're just decent. Dallas might have it on lock.
Which you bring up the East, and I cannot believe. I mean, I know we've got like 4 minutes or whatever, but just remember this: Philadelphia's got 3 first-round picks, and they're not exactly sold on Jalen Hurts. Which, if you look at Jalen Hurts' Twitter account, he has erased the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback off it.
Well, they were interested in Deshawn Watson for a while.
And they might still be, and if you want my opinion, that's the team that's got the ammunition to pull something off. Yeah,
me and my buddy Bruce were talking about it at work the other day. I thought he was blowing smoke, but after listening and hearing him out, he made some valid points. They could give up 2 first rounds this year and a first round next year and not be hurting. Who can say that? What other team can come with that kind of ammunition to the Texans?
Nobody.
The only thing that stops that is Deshaun Watson has a no-trade clause.
Correct.
So, anyway, fun show, gentlemen.
Yes.
I enjoyed it. It was nice not having to look at Stout and Jerry's ugly faces. So,
but you do miss them. You do miss their back and forth, though. It is quite comical, and I just like sitting back and listening to it.
Right. So, any comments before we get out of here today?
Oh yeah,
nothing.
Just it's just you just do the simple stay tuned, because
absolutely
it's gonna get interesting. I think. I really think. With how it played out this past week, this week should be even better, just because free agency officially opens up. You still got quarterbacks dangling, and you've got the big fish that's out there still too. So it's like, what's going to happen?
Right.
Especially right before the draft positioning, it's going to get fun.
Right on. Andy?
Nothing? Yep. I'm trying to. Well, I don't know if it's going to allow me to do so now because the way that things are currently running. But when you were talking about with your favorite Tampa Bay team and stuff like that, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. See if it loaded. Doesn't look like it loaded. There it is.
Oh, there we are. It's a little late for that though, brother. I was on the soapbox, but it was a quick. It was a quick.
We're definitely have to keep a hold of that one.
Keep quick one today, but I love it. Sador soapbox, trademark that. But honestly, I Deshaun Watson's gonna hold the pin on the grenade till the draft. I think, and once his goes off, the rest are gonna go off. The rest will follow. I really think Minshew makes sense in Indy, and I would love to see Trubisky in Tampa. Please like, follow, and share, and we'll see you all next week.